Hey there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Paint Party live stream. I'm so glad to have you here with me in my studio. This is episode 102. 102. We have crested the century mark, and I'm so glad to have each and every one of you this evening. If you've been here before, you know how this works. It's really laid back, kind of open house, I like to say. Pop in and pop out whenever and however, stay however long you'd like. You can participate in the live stream this evening wherever you're watching through the comments. You're welcome to add comments, to ask questions, or to make suggestions as I go along. This is my Learn to Paint journey. A couple years ago, I started teaching myself to paint using YouTube tutorials, and since then I have continued to do that via a live stream every week. Almost every week on Monday evenings. I meet you here in my studio so that you can come along on the journey with me. I try to set up a new painting every week so that you get kind of a little variety and a wide variety of subjects that we're tackling as we go through this process. So last week we did a sunset that was kind of a close-up of some beach grass and the sunset behind. It was a lot of fun. And we actually got the full painting done in the allotted time. This evening, we are going to be doing something totally different, something I've never done before, but I'm excited to jump in. So let's get started. I'll show you what we're going to do, and we will dive right in. Now, before we jump in, I have conditioned my canvas panel behind me, which you can see is kind of has some assistance, but let me show you what we're going to do first. I'm going to switch the camera over here so I can talk directly to you, and let me put up the reference. So we're going to do a painting of the moon this evening, and what I have behind me, I'll pull off the canvas. I just kind of rigged this up a few minutes ago to help lay out the composition because I like how this reference photo is set up. So I basically cut the edge of a paper plate, taped it to the canvas panel, and that will allow us to get hopefully a really even edge. What I realized once I got it set and before I had enough time to change it was I probably should have used the inside edge of this and actually moved the kind of stencil further out so that I could paint the inside edge, and that would give us a perfect edge once this is pulled away. That was the intention, but I'm still going to try to do that with this outside edge. I'll just have to be a little more careful and more precise with my painting. We'll see if it works out. You got to start and learn. So, all right. Hey there, welcome Dad, so good to see you. And Lola, so good to have you as well. Thanks for joining as always. I'm going to get the other camera set up over here so that you all can see the canvas. Give me just a moment to get that flipped around. I hope you all had a great weekend. We are finally getting spring here. Definitely spring. Unfortunately, Canada is being afflicted with lots of forest fires, which is producing a lot of smoke for us. And so we are getting the overflow. I know it's clear down, I think as far south as kind of Colorado, Nebraska. So it's pretty smoggy. Not quite terrible, but your eyes get really scratchy. I was feeling really fatigued. It's not bothering me in my throat too much, but yeah, it's kind of a bummer now that I can have the windows and doors open that the smoke has come in. So, all right, we are set to go, I think. So let's jump in. I will switch cameras back for you so you can see this, and then I will add the palette over here. All right, let's jump in and see what we can do with this. Now, what I want to do is pick kind of the brightest color of the moon and use that as kind of the edge. So we are going to, or yeah, so that then I can layer darker colors on top. So we're going to do almost white. Hi there, Mom. Thanks for joining. Glad you can watch for a little bit at least. Okay, let's pick a very as precise as we can paintbrush. So I'm gonna take this small filbert brush and begin to mix here the white and a little bit of yellow. We'll mix mostly white, just a very small dab of the yellow because the yellow is super powerful. And we don't want to go too dark with it. So we'll mix the white. The white's going to be pretty translucent. And I'm doing this on a black canvas panel. So we'll see how that works. It may be a mess because if it doesn't cover well, that's going to be a challenge. But let's just start in. I'm going to start over here because I'm a lefty. And I want to try to do the best we can, getting a real good edge, a real even edge, because that's what makes this, I think, will make this painting interesting, is if the edge is very stark against the black. So that's the goal. Whoops. Little by little. All right, let's see what we can do. Whoops. This is difficult for me. A little difficult for me. It'd be easier if I could take my right hand to go down the edge, but this southpaw is just going to have to make it work. Hey, Jasmine. Long time no see, no chat. Hope you are well. I miss you and hope you are doing well and life is treating you well. So good to see you, my friend. I was recently talking with a friend about our trip to Peru all those years ago and remembering what an incredible experience it was, at least for me, to outside of babysitting 30 kiddos. It was a lot of fun, and I'm glad you were on that trip to be my tour bus buddy. I'm just glad we got all the kids back safe and sound, and we didn't have to try to do it coming back after the pandemic. Life was much simpler then, wasn't it? Okay, I think we have a pretty good edge for our moon. So we will let that be. I know, right? It was, oh my goodness, y'all. I just realized I went and filled up my water and walked away with it. And it is downstairs, and I need water in order to clean my brush. Unfortunately, that means this is the first time I've done this in this studio. I'm going to have to run downstairs, y'all. If you will just hold on tight, I will be right back. All right, thanks for your patience. I am back. My goodness. Rookie error. Rookie error, rookie error. Okay. So let's take this off and continue with our efforts. All right. That's a nice edge for the moon, I think. So let's see what we can make of this painting, y'all. Let me move my stool over so I can sit down now a little bit. Okay. Next thing is to basically get a broad cover. So I'm going to take a big brush, and the thing we want to pay attention to is kind of the edge here, because we have the darkness coming into the edge. So we'll want to kind of be mindful of that, because it will be easier to put a little, to paint kind of the gray into it so that it looks like it's emerging out of the darkness. But I don't want to paint over the whole thing and then have to go back and paint in the dark, because I want the black, the under of the under painting of the canvas palette to, or canvas panel to show. So we will mix the white with a little bit of yellow like we did. Mix it all in. This will be a lot because we really want it to cover, and we want to build up a little, we want to build up the texture of what's happening. This will be, you'll see when I was a kid or young adult, my dad taught me to cut in. This was painting woodwork or painting around woodwork, but you'll see how good my cutting in skills are around this edge. fun, isn't it? This is going to be a good... One thing Dad always said, fill your brush, refill your brush or your roller. And I still probably don't do that as often as I should, even painting this kind of painting. Fill your brush, refill it. So we'll go back. Get some more paint. See if we can. We'll trying to avoid. Might have to do a few. Few layers of this. I'm trying to avoid the streaking. Oop. Messed up there. I don't know that it shows, but notice that I'm changing my approach here on the edge. To create different texture in the middle, because we want a smooth feeling on the edge of the edge of the moon, and then we want not as smooth in the middle, if that makes sense. All right, we'll let this dry a little bit. And then we'll probably do another coat. Won't take long. Whoops. Slinging water everywhere, y'all. Hey there, Bob G. Thanks so much for joining. I hope you hope it's not too hot and humid down south. Today I was complaining about the humidity and had to remind myself it's really not humid. It's just I'm so used to the dry air that any humidity at all, I'm like dying, even though it's only like 75 degrees probably. It might have got up to 80 today, I don't know. There's not a lot of movement with the smoke we have from the forest fires up north. And so it feels a little more stagnant, more than it actually humid, but I had to open my windows and put a fan in this afternoon, or this evening, because the sun is kind of just setting, and it's also a little warm up in my studio because I am upstairs, so in the attic, so that's kind of a different. All right, I'm gonna step back a little bit. I like this where it's going. I just want to let it fully dry. And we'll just do another coat if we can. It's still a little tacky, so we'll wait just a second. Maybe it is humid, man. It's not drying instantaneously. Remember when I used to have to get out the hair dryer? It was a beautiful day, around 70 to 72, nice breeze, very low humidity. Ooh, that's like you stole our weather, man. That shouldn't be happening in the end of May in Little Rock. That's when you just count your blessings and say, we'll take it. I'm trying to think of what's going to be the easiest way to paint the shadows of the moon. These giant, I don't know what they're called, like valleys, not the craters necessarily, but these large like birthmarks the moon has. They probably literally are birthmarks, like from when the moon was jettisoned from the earth. I think I want to probably just take like a fan brush or maybe a round brush and kind of dab it like that. I'm not sure. We'll see. Because we don't want them perfectly formed, but we want them recognizable for those who know the moon. If they look at this painting, I don't want them to be totally shocked or be like, that's not the moon. Man, this is taking a little longer. I just don't want to be impatient, because then if I paint over it before it's really dried, then it pulls up the painting underneath, and then it leaves little kind of paint crusties in the paint you lay down over, and it's just a mess. So you just got me yammering to fill time. I'm thinking of actually doing, for those of you that watch often, I have an idea and have begun to think of a large painting. I'd like to try. I have done some, the one of Mont Saint-Michel that we worked on several months ago. I'm still working on it. It's the largest. I think it was 36 by 24 or something like that. But I have an idea for a kind of monumental piece that would be really, really large, but really impressive if I can pull it off. So I may talk more about that in the coming months, but I'm looking to, of course, always push myself, but I've never done something that's like giant that somebody would want to hang in their house. And so I'm thinking about doing something like that, even if it never hangs in somebody's house, just to have that, to get the opportunity and experience to paint on a very, very large, for me, very large scale. So I don't know what that means, but probably something in feet rather than inches, but I would have to see, because that's going to be a terribly expensive canvas. So that's one of the other things I may, if I decide to actually go through with it, I may want to do, to learn to stretch my own canvas and build my own stretch frames. So I may have to do a lot more research, but that's what I'm thinking. Hey there, welcome. So glad to have you popping in for the live stream. Always appreciate when people from different platforms pop in, glad to have you. This is a laid back live stream, so stay as short or as long a time as you would like. Feel free to comment or ask questions. Real informal here, real informal. All right, now I think we're really starting to get covered. Your daughter is a good painter. How can you support her? Of course, encouraging her. Without knowing her situation, I would say, of course, encouragement, but also I would ask her, what does she need? Or what would she like for? If, of course, there are things practically, like is she looking to do this as a career? Is she looking to do it as a hobby? If you can make introductions for her or help guide her to build out her network, that could be a help. Now, as we go into this, I'm kind of trying to start to bring some shape into these areas of where the light of the sun goes back onto the moon. So kind of trying to do this a little bit. And I'm doing that by just kind of dabbing here a little bit. Then we'll go in and put some details. All right. She is 11, so she, I imagine, is just getting started or is young in her, obviously young. Then I would say supporting her, of course, encouraging her. But if I were starting at 8, 9, 10, 11, I just watched a podcast on YouTube of an artist who's 19 now, and I think he started when he was 12 or 13, something like that, because he's been doing it 6 years, 13, yeah. If you want, look up on YouTube an interview by Andrew Tischler with Cody Oldham, and it might be encouraging for her to see someone who is maybe just 5, 6 years down the road from her, and he's now represented by multiple galleries, and he's selling art as a professional, and he's only 19. He's, of course, very ambitious. Not that maybe she wants to do it professionally, but... and then the other thing I would say, which I'm actually trying to follow, even though I am not 11, is try a bunch of things. Like try a bunch of different mediums, try a bunch of different sizes of paintings, try a bunch of different subjects. I am 2 years in, and I am still exploring just subject matter. I'm doing flowers, and of course, like this, the moon. I'm doing still lifes. I'm doing landscapes. I'm doing animals. I'm doing a bunch of things to kind of find my key or core style, as well as the thing that I love to paint. So if I were young, or if I were even not so young and starting out, I would say try a lot of things, look at a lot of different art, and then try to analyze what if you are able to take her to different art museums, let her look at different styles of painting, the different time periods, what does she react to, and have her analyze why she's reacting to that. That is very helpful for me when I go to art museums right now. I look at what jumps at me across the gallery, and then I'll go up to that painting, no matter what style it is or what time period, and I'll try to identify what is it is it the contrast? Is it the light and dark? Is it the color? Is it the lines? I look at the fundamentals of the painting to try to identify what is, what my eye and kind of my internal creativity is reacting to. And then that also provides me opportunity to explore my own creativity when I look at something that I can say, oh, this is why I like this, if that makes sense. All right, I'm going to try a couple different things. I am going to try kind of this is actually a brush. These two brushes are for painting, and this one, I don't know if you can tell, but it's kind of chopped at different levels, for painting brush in like a landscape, like grasses and things. But I think this brush might work for these larger spots out on the moon. So let's try and see if we can do that. I'm going to take a little of this blue and mix it in with a little umber, raw umber, and a little blue. We're going to try to create kind of a muddy gray. All right, I think we got it. All right, and then I'm going to smash my brush down so that it's kind of, the bristles are separated. And we'll kind of try to see if we can lay in some of these shapes. This main one here, we'll see if we can make this work, y'all. Smash it a little bit. Okay, so let's keep. Okay. Okay. Not bad for a first little bit. So we'll let it dry. I'm going to step back just a second, see what I like and don't like. Okay. Pretty good. Pretty good. Now, what I think I need to do is create some variation in the rest of the moon and kind of play with that. So, and then the final step will be to put some, like where the detail work of specific craters, which will be basically just coming in with light and then with a little shadow on the other side. But first, I think I want to do some light. Whoops, excuse me. Okay, y'all. Now we're going to come in with some white. And I'm going to do a little brown. I'm doing the burnt umber now, because if you notice down here in this part of the moon, it is a little more warm and a little less. So let's see, and let's see if we can create some subtle contrast. Yeah. It's almost like a pink color. Then we mix a little of the then it will give also these other formations some rocky looks. There we go. Now it's looking more moony, moon-like to me. Then we do the same, we just keep doing the same thing, mix this with, and then we come back with this will give the appearance of, especially on this side, of lots and lots of craters. Now, and lots of texture, which I want. So, because then when I paint in the few craters that are specific, it will look much more realistic, if that makes sense. Now I'm doing kind of a greenish color to give different parts. There's just a few parts that are like this kind of green. I'm not sure why, but we'll add it. The more layers, in my opinion, the better. So, do that. Then kind of a dark green. There we go. Now I'm starting to see what I want to see. Yeah, by doing all these weird color layers and different color layers, you get a real, you don't realize there's so many colors in there, but there's pinks and greens and blues and browns, and once you start putting it in, then it's like, oh, it looks so much more three-dimensional now. Honestly, like it could almost stand on its own as it is. Like when I just look at it, I'm like, oh, that's really cool. So let me step back again. Take a look. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. Now, let me take a picture. This one is fun, isn't it? Last week was really fun too. The last 2 weeks I've specifically tried to look at subjects that were fairly simple but had a level of challenge to them, in that there's a variety of different like layers and colors, and last week it was the gradient, if you remember, like, can we get this gradient correct? So, but I think that works for me. It works really well on the live stream, because then we have the we can get a lot more done, it seems like, and we can almost finish a whole painting, which is much more fun for me and for you. Okay, now I'm coming in with some ultramarine blue and such, and basically touching up spots that were, I hope they won't stand out too much once they dry, but we'll see. Spots where I accidentally got a little too ambitious. We'll see how they play out. They will show up for now, but we'll see once they dry how it works. Because I just really want a almost perfect edge to the moon, otherwise this painting just doesn't work. So we'll see. There we go. All right, we'll see how it looks once it has dried up. Now, I think what I want to do is look at some of these core features of the moon. This is where we'll go a little more detailed. And I want to start to put in the detail, because I think that's going to be the clincher for this. This is where this painting will be a real good one. Thanks for all of you who are sticking with me this evening. I see several more people have come into the room. So glad to have you. Thanks for stopping in. And let's see, what are we going to do? All right, I think what I want to do first is lay in some of this detail down here in this part of the moon. So let's go ahead and we'll just mix some more of this really dark, almost black color. This is the shadow on the shadow side of the craters. So I'm going to take a small brush. Hey John, thanks so much for joining. Glad to see you. It's been a while. Appreciate you popping in. Okay. Now we will take a very small brush, and what I'm going to try to do is make the shadow of these ridges. Okay. I don't want to get too carried away. So we have this ridge, then we have a crater down here. Up here we have one that is just like that. I'm also trying to figure out what's the level of detail I want to go to down here. Okay, now I'm going to take the light side and try to paint some elevated spots here. I don't know this is giving me the effect I want, but we will see as we keep. I think it's because we need also okay. Need to work on this a little bit because it's not, now it's looking too blotchy. I don't want that. So let's see, up here we have fairly prominent crater. And we, on this side, we just need a I am just putting in some spots of contrast again, lighter and darker in these, because I think that's what's going to make this look realistic at a distance. All right, we're gonna do okay out here. Kind of a maybe a mountain range there, but on the edges here, we're going to give suggestion of some. Out here is a definitely all right, y'all. We're gonna be able to wrap this one up, I think. So this is really working nicely at the end. Like on some of these, because we put so much here, then putting some highlights in, really, you don't need many. And suddenly it's suggests some raised points and really gives us that feeling of that the moon is shining, because we're just putting those highlights in. So I'm going to take some pure white, and I'm actually going to take some lemon yellow, which is even more diffused than cad yellow. We're just going to mix that in. See if that works, because I want to put the brightest spot right there. Okay, down here there's all right, this is making me very happy. What do y'all think? Is there anything I'm missing? Or does it look pretty close? I think that I am happy with it. Let me step back and really take a look. This was a fun one to do. Let me put on my glasses so I can see at a distance. All right. I think that is going to do it. Yeah, I really like this. I really, really, really like it. So, I am not going to overpaint it. Thanks so much. Yeah, it wasn't particularly difficult, but all the things fell together. But I do think it was layering on the pinks and the greens and the browns and blues. It's like all those layers make it look like it's three-dimensional. Yeah, it just makes me really happy. I like it. I don't know what I'd ever do with it. I mean, maybe if I was an astronomer or something. But I'm going to put it up on my wall and appreciate the level of skill I was at this point to do something like this. Especially when you're learning a new skill, it's important to step back ever so often and appreciate where you come, because it's really easy to focus on where you want to be and where you're not. And then it's good to step back and say, okay. And I mentioned that young kid that I watched that interview this week. He's 19 and producing really phenomenal work. And, you know, part of me says, oh my goodness, 19 and he's just getting started, and he's so good and he's got somewhere to go. So much more to go. Thanks so much, John. I appreciate that. That is very helpful and encouraging, just because, you know, I am in the studio every time I'm in the studio, and so I don't always see the growth, but it's really nice when people pop back in and can recognize it and see it. So thank you for those kind words. But I realized this kiddo that's 19 has been doing this for 6 years, and he's developed obviously a lot of skill and building a business around his painting. And I don't know that I ever necessarily want to do that, but it made me just actually encouraged, because I realized even though I'm much older than he is, I could, if I continue and am dedicated to this process, it's going to produce results. And clearly it already has. So, all right, I think I am going to actually, while we're here, we might as well just sign this bad boy. Since I have a paint pen that is roughly the same color. All right, let me bring you back here and move the camera around so I can say a proper goodbye and good night We will be back in the studio next Monday, as we always are. We're ending a little earlier tonight, which is nice. Hopefully, wherever you are, you can turn around or go out and enjoy the beautiful weather where you are. I hope it's beautiful where you are. And let me move that. All right. Well, I do want to say thank you for joining me for this fun painting of the moon. I think it turned out really well. This was a lot of fun for me. It's always really fun when the image in your head or the vision in your head, you can actually produce pretty close to what you want to do. And that has been the challenge as I've developed my skills, is to continue to push through when it doesn't always look like I want it to look, but this one turned out really well. So thank you so much for joining us. Mom, good night as well. I hope you get a good, restful evening, and I will see you, if not tomorrow, definitely Wednesday, Thursday. And yeah, John, thanks again for joining. Lola, Bob, all the regulars that pop in. I appreciate each and every one of you. We will be back here next Monday again at 6 p.m. Mountain Time for the 103rd episode of the Paint Party live stream. And yeah, if you want to see progress photos, these progress photos I've taken during this painting, as well as other paintings that I am producing outside of the live stream, you can find those on Instagram at Stephen E. Rice. And I usually post the progress photos when I finish a painting there. And on my stories, if I'm not done with a painting, my Instagram stories often will be updates on how paintings are going. So with that, I guess I will say good night. Thanks so much for joining, and we will see you next time. Have a good night.